Prime Minister of St. Martin says that the late Louis Duzanzon was a man of honor. Member of Parliament for the PFP wants to know if a study was done to assess how many psychologists and psychiatrists are needed, and police patrols were kept busy over the weekend. Those are the headlines for Wednesday, November the 18th, 2020. Good evening, viewers. This is SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie Bumpleton. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. And as usual, we have a full newscast for you, so let's get started. In our first story, an item taken from the police blotter, several items, matter of fact, the St. Martin Police Force, KPSM, made several arrests over the weekend for various infractions, which included theft and ill treatment. On Friday, November the 13th, 2020, the police were called by the St. Martin Medical Center for the 2-year-old who had been admitted and who had ingested an unknown amount of narcotics. After a short investigation and with the intervention of the public prosecutor, it was decided to arrest the mother for child neglect. The suspect, with initials CDC, was arrested on Saturday, November the 14th, at approximately 1 p.m. at her home in the Dutch Quarter area. She was brought to the police station where she was held for questioning. The police patrol was also directed to St. John's Estate on Saturday afternoon, November the 14th, 2020, around 5 p.m. for a rental dispute between two parties. During the mediation between the tenant and the landlords, the tenant assaulted the landlord in the presence of the police. The tenant, with the initials EA, was immediately arrested and brought to the police station in Phillipsburg, where he was held for questioning. The investigation is still ongoing. And later that evening, on Saturday, November the 14th, around 6 p.m., the Central Dispatch directed the patrols to a hardware store in Cold Bay area for a fight. A customer attempted to enter the hardware store after closing time against the wishes of the security and management. There was an argument at the entrance of the business that resulted in an altercation between the security and the customer. The security and the owners of the company filed an official complaint against the man with the initials VP, who was still at the scene. The suspect was immediately arrested and taken to the Phillipsburg police station, where he was held for questioning. Then, while patrolling in the cul-de-sac area on the same Saturday night, around 11:50 p.m., the officers spotted a scooter with two persons driving on the L.B. Scott Road and ordered the driver to stop. While doing a quick inspection of the scooter, the officers noticed that the driver was using a screwdriver as the starting mechanism. During a closer inspection, it was revealed that the scooter had been stolen. The rider of the scooter and the passenger, with the initials MTH and EJ, could not give a good account of where they got the scooter from and was taken into custody by the patrol. After being arrested, both suspects were transported to the police station in Phillipsburg, where they were held for questioning. And in other news at this time, Minister of Justice, the Honorable Anna Richardson, at this morning's Council of Ministers press briefing, addressed what she termed as very serious accusations made by persons within the community against members of the St. Martin Police Force, allegedly partaking in driving and selling of stolen vehicles. The minister expounded and also briefed the press on other matters that her cabinet is currently busy with.
I have taken note of some very serious accusations made by persons within the community related to the members or some members of the police force allegedly partaking in driving and selling of stolen vehicles. I am of the position that such accusations cannot be taken lightly, as it poses far-reaching damages that affect not only the police department and the Ministry of Justice, but St. Martin on an international level. As such, a proper and thorough investigation must be executed. Due to the fact that this matter has been made public, I will do all within my ability to maintain transparency. On Monday, November 16th, there was a court hearing pertaining to requests made by several law enforcement officers seeking to be placed in a function that either does not exist within the function books of CAPI NA, CAPI SM 2011, and or is on a scale that differs from the draft function books. The request of the officers is based on the use of reference of function books that were used prior to 10.10.10, referred to as CAPI NA and or that of CAPI SM 2011. Though the communication published by the representative of the plaintiffs implied that the court ruled in favor of the request, fact of the matter is the court simply ordered the Minister of Justice to take a decision within 4 weeks of the verdict date. This afternoon, today Wednesday, there will be a meeting with the project group, which comprises of the steering committee and the work group related to the function book, and the progress being made to have the function books finalized and enacted. The work group is working diligently to meet the deadline that has been set. The finalization of the function book remains my top priority, as I and those directly involved in completing the function books remain committed to having this finalized. Speaking of grievances expressed by members of law enforcement, it has been brought to my attention that the various unions of law enforcement officers are expressing their uncertainty regarding various decisions that have been made. Despite the fact that in recent times I have not received an official invitation from the unions to discuss these concerns, I'd like to advise that at 9 a.m. this morning, an invitation from my cabinet was sent to the unions inviting them to a meeting so that these areas of concern can be discussed.
And as we continue now in other news, the Committee of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, which met on November the 16th, 2020, with representatives of the Mental Health Foundation to discuss mental health care on St. Martin, Member of Parliament for the PFP, the Honorable Melissa Gumbs, also queried the former director on the Association of Psychologists and Psychiatrists that were brought in to assist after Hurricane Irma back in 2017. The Member of Parliament also wanted to know if a study was done to assess how many psychologists and psychiatrists are needed to deliver the necessary services at the Mental Health Foundation. She expounded further.
I wanted to know if a study has been done to assess exactly how many psychologists and psychiatrists are actually needed. I see you have staff room for 50 and you have 45 now, but what amount of that is supposed to be split between psychologists and psychiatrists to deliver the necessary services then at our Mental Health Foundation? That also fits our population needs, because even I still find that 50 is a little low for the size of our population. In terms of the figures contained in your presentation, you mentioned 10,926 treatments for 2019. So I wanted to know, what is the definition of a treatment? Because with all due respect to the Mental Health Foundation staff, but if I consider that a treatment is an appointment, that would mean then that the existing psychiatric and psychological staff had 913 appointments per month. So does that number include no-shows or phone calls, prescriptions, etc.? So maybe defining what constitutes a treatment would help us understand the data better, because that data would tell me then that the mental health staff itself is probably experiencing mental health stress and strain. And how are the figures generated? So are they now coming directly from that patient dossier environment to ensure transparency? And then, does that database then hold patient information and treatment history, and also for referrals? I'm aware in the past, like many areas of healthcare, we used to support SABA and St. Eustatius with mental health assistance. Is this still happening under the current COVID rules? You mentioned the board briefly, but who is actually on the board? I was trying to find out that information prior to this meeting, and what is the duration then of board member terms? And could you explain, Ms. Healy, the setbacks you're facing with stakeholders regarding recruiting psychiatrists? Like, is it a turnover issue or a lack of available qualified individuals? Because you mentioned setbacks in communication with stakeholders for your own hiring. So I would just like some clarification on that point.
And former director of the Mental Health Foundation, Ms. Eileen Healy, then responded to the questions about the team of psychiatrists and psychologists that were brought in. Mrs. Healy said that they do have a multi-annual plan and it could be linked to what you would need, but it will require some adjustments. She also elaborated more.
The amount of psychiatrists and psychologists we need, yes, we have a multi-annual plan in where we estimated the growth of patients and linked it to what you would need. But as Kitty mentioned in her presentation, it will, since COVID and Irma, require some adjustment. But yes, we do monitor the need. Definition of treatment, we did briefly discuss it. The problem is that we're not allowed to or able to implement the DSM coding, which defines treatment. So Kitty will further elaborate on that one. And it was too complicated to put it in a PowerPoint for now. But yes, each diagnosis has a specific treatment plan linked to it. How figures are generated? For years, we have had a data management system. It was a relatively affordable one when we started in 2009. I think we implemented it, but it was designed predominantly for general practitioners. We have, since the beginning of this year, been switching over. That's why I don't think anybody commented on it yet, but you see in the presentation, we start March and then up, is when we switched over to the new system that gives us more options to generate, in an easier manner, data. Previous years, we did inform through our social year reports of data, but a lot of it was done manually and was time consuming. So we are improving that system. One of the problems that we encountered when implementing a new system, a lot of things are in cloud today, and we only had 10 MB internet. So you can imagine what was happening. Praise the Lord, last week we got 50 MB in from Telem. Fine, or it goes up to 45. So hopefully we can speed up that process of data collection. SEBA and Statia, we mentioned. We have an agreement with SEBA and Statia. Previously, when we first had that agreement with them, I believe it was in 2011 also, the first agreement, our doctors would fly over every other week. One of the requirements from SEBA and Statia is BIG registered Dutch qualified psychiatrist, which we did not have at the time. So they reduced the agreement, and actually we only do admission at the moment. If they need to admit a client, they come by us. And some come to St. Martin for consultations when they do not have a psychiatrist there. But they are using their jumelage, a psychiatrist from Bonaire, to come down now here. As soon as we have fully BIG registered, actually we have one, but he was not really willing to fly over. It's all kinds of confusions, but we're trying to increase that service again.
And still to come, director of the NRPB says the NRPB can never fix St. Martin 100%. We'll have the details to that story and much more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your air code temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News for this evening, and I'm Valerie Van Putten. As we continue now with other news, at the memorial service for the late Louis Duzanzon, which was held on Monday last on what would have been his 72nd birthday, Prime Minister of St. Martin, the Honorable Sylvia Jacobs, in her address said that he was a man of honor and the contribution he has made will always be cherished. Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for the UD, Mrs. Sarah Westcott Williams, who did work with the late Mr. Duzanzon, said that she worked with him in many capacities. She said it did not matter what administration was there. Louis knew he possessed the knowledge. He knew he was helping to build his country, and with pride and confidence, he did exactly that.
Organization honors the late Louis Duzanzon as a man of honor. The contribution he has made will always be cherished. A man who would often say, quote, always have your element on your desk so you can refer to the rules, unquote. A skilled problem solver, highly respected advisor, a walking legal encyclopedia, empathy, humility, and resilience. The late Louis Duzanzon was a dedicated civil servant and role model for the people of St. Martin. His purpose in life was to serve his people, and he did so valiantly for 39 years. Mr. Duzanzon began working as a civil servant in the government of St. Martin in October of 1971, serving the people of St. Martin in various capacities until 2010, and even thereafter. During the 80s, Mr. Duzanzon also served as secretary of the Secondary School Boards, VOBA, and vice president of the St. Martin Lions Club, an organization he served in for 21 years. In the 90s, he served as the Island Council secretary on various occasions, together with many councilmen, such as the late Dr. Claude Watty, the late Samuel Hazel, and the late Raymond Nicholson, as well as Dennis Ponteflet, to name just a few.
Louis started with the island government of St. Martin just a few years before I did. And getting to know Louis, and I worked with him in many different capacities, some of the things that you see written about him in the booklet this evening is exactly the way he is remembered. Louis came back to St. Martin as one of the first persons who acquired the diploma of public administration in the Netherlands. It was a big thing at that time. Bestuursambtenaar, persons like the late Mervyn Scott and the late Joseph Richardson and some others as well. And he came back with a pride to be able to serve the government. The references that I referred to that so many persons spoke in glowing terms about Louis had to do with that sense of pride and confidence in helping to build the government of St. Martin. It did not matter what administration was there. Louis knew he possessed the knowledge. He knew he was helping to build his country. And with a pride and confidence, he did exactly that.
And in other news, Director of the NRPB, Mr. Claret Connor, speaking exclusively to our newsroom, gave the total cost of funds needed for hurricane relief for the island. According to Mr. Connor, the island lost $2.3 billion, and the trust fund is $550 million, so it will never fix back St. Martin 100%. But he did give a breakdown.
That's a very interesting question. Why? Because if you think about what the country was confronted with after Hurricane Irma in terms of loss, we had lost over $2.3 billion. The trust fund is $550 million. that has been made available for certain repairs and emergency responses. So the trust fund will never fix back St. Martin 100%. But of course, after a hurricane, you do have insurance proceeds, you have private funds that persons have to put back into their property, you have businesses that would have to reinvest, have new loans to keep them going. So, given all of that together, the country would have needed over 2.3 to 2.7 billion in terms of dealing strictly with the loss that we had experienced. So as far as and I mentioned it earlier, every activity has a uniqueness to it in terms of the cost, in terms of the scope of work, in terms of how it's to be brought back on stream. So when you take the entire program of the trust fund into consideration, we're going to spend 550 million. Within within that budget, hopefully we get as much out of it. And if you look at the airport situation, the trust fund provided seed funding, and the airport now have funds that come outside of the trust fund, the 50 million from the European Investment Bank. So you could also use the trust fund as an element to create more funding for different projects, using it as a co-funding element. So I think that is one of the areas that we should be concentrating on, because of course the trust fund isn't 550 anymore after we've committed over 240 million in projects that we are basically right now implementing, and then there's another 100 and something million of projects that we're preparing. So every time you take off a couple million, it depletes the total. But in addition to that, some things like we started off with homes that on an average should have cost 25,000 per roof, and we had some instances where roof repairs and home repair went way over $60,000-$70,000 per. And all of this, especially in the roof repair program, is a grant, is granted to the individuals on behalf of the government of the Netherlands to St. Martin.
And as we continue now in this COVID-related item, as of November the 17th, there were 15 persons who tested positive for COVID-19. However, there was a recovery rate of 10 persons, bringing the total active cases to 63. The total number of confirmed cases is now 954. The Collective Prevention Services, CPS, are monitoring 57 people in home isolation. 6 patients are currently hospitalized at the St. Martin Medical Center. The total number of deaths due to COVID-19 remains at 24. The number of people recovered since the first case surfaced on St. Martin has increased to 867. 149 people are in quarantine based on contact tracing investigations carried out by CPS of persons who may have been in contact with any of the active cases. CPS has tested 1,331 travelers arriving at the Princess Juliana International Airport and 7,102 people throughout the community. As the numbers continue to fluctuate, CPS will continue to actively execute its contact tracing measure. The Minister of Public Health, the Honorable Richard Panafleck, would like to reiterate to the public that if you are sick, have symptoms related to COVID-19, or have been in close contact with someone who has the virus, please stay at home and call your family doctor. We can only slow down the spread of the virus if we work together and follow the mandatory regulations implemented. Now, turning to our weather forecast for November the 18th, 2020, moisture associated with the tropical wave coupled with instability from a mid to upper level trough may cause scattered showers at some point during the forecast period. Some of these showers could be heavy at times and trigger localized street flooding, and residents and users in areas prone to flooding are advised to use caution. Furthermore, slight to moderate marine conditions can be expected for the next few days. So the outlook through Friday midday, partly cloudy with isolated showers. Now let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, magic in the air at the National Institutes of Arts. I'll have the details of that story when SXM Daily News returns.
The innovative Banco Matico contactless smart card. Your Banco Matico smart card is now equipped with a contactless feature for payments, so get ready to tap and go. Contactless payments are fast, easy, secure, and accepted worldwide at all Maestro-enabled contactless terminals. Tap for transactions equivalent to or less than 100 NAF, or the US dollar equivalent. You will receive notifications via email anytime you tap. Tap, tap, and pay fast with WIB. For more information, visit our website at wib-bank.net. Tap and go with your partner in progress.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News. And as we continue now in another item, St. Martin's Lions Club President, Mr. Alphonse Gums, speaking to SXM Daily News about Lionism on St. Martin, the president was asked about a project that doesn't get completed during a president's tenure, and he expounded further.
Going back to your question about if you have a project and you want to bring it over, one of the projects I would say, if I go back just a few years ago, when Lion Davey was president, his focus was on one of the big site projects that we did, where we wanted to test the various students, the primary school students and high school students. And because within his year, the hurricane disrupted our planning. So we was able to take that project and push it over into the next line year, which was under Lion Allison. And he also had that project executed in that year. So we have seen it. It's not something that because present year is over, then that project, if it was not finished, it stops. We have a good relationship among the different presidents, and because we know the value of those projects, no president would say no to one of those projects that we would get. And we know because it's a sustainable project and it's benefit our entire population. So that's why we look at those projects and we continue them.
And as we end this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening, the National Institute of Arts, NIA, kicked off the new school year in September with a very special collaboration between the Bronxville Ballet Not For Sale director Anna Dimas and Art Saves Lives director Nicole DeWeaver. Director of NIA, Arlene Hawley, was very touched by the gesture and exclaimed, "Just when you think the rain is not going to stop, a ray of sunshine breaks through." Bronxville Ballet Not For Sale is Anna Dimas's nonprofit foundation that takes its name from the notion that the best things in life are indeed not for sale. The best things in life should be given away. In Anna's desire to give back to the community, she is collaborating with studios around the world, offering the joy of ballet to those in need or with special needs. The hope of Anna's program is of having the girls learn new skills, gain a positive self-image, and have a chance to be a princess. Anna not only sponsored 10 classes for the students, but with the assistance of Nicole DeWeaver, NIA received nothing less than 25 princess dresses, custom-made and hand-delivered from New York by Nicole DeWeaver. Congratulations, and thank you, Nicole. And with that, viewers, it brings us to the end of this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening. I am Valerie Van Putten, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in this evening. And just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.